Hello, Self-Love Tribe. I've never been scared to tell my story. I've been super transparent about everything, including the ugliest of experiences. Why? That's what today's video is all about. Why do I choose to be so transparent about my life? Why do I choose to share the ugliest stories from my past? Stories about addiction, depression, anxiety, abusive relationships. Why do I choose to delve into these things with the public, with people I don't even know? I'll tell you why. And that's what today's video is all about. The reason why I choose to share my story. I started blogging in 2012 when I first embarked on my self-love journey. I chose Tumblr of all places because I didn't have a profile on Tumblr. I had this awesome social media presence on all other platforms, Facebook, Twitter, etc., and that was from my previous nightlife days. But Tumblr felt safe to me because I didn't have a following there. No one knew I existed there. So I began to blog about my journey to self-love. I would talk about the ugly things that I would experience, the feelings, the emotions that would come up. And I felt really safe doing it there because I didn't feel as though people I knew were actually reading the posts. The point of me posting it online was to hold myself accountable to my growth. Because I knew if I didn't hold myself accountable, I would fall off the wagon. Not to say that I didn't fall off the wagon. I fell off the wagon quite a few times, but at least I spoke about it online, on my blog. Eventually, that Tumblr page turned into my website. And the reason why I decided to do that was because I just started getting all these people reaching out to me. Perhaps you, someone watching this video, maybe you were one of the ones that reached out to me. But I started getting these messages on Facebook, on Twitter, on Tumblr from people who have experienced the same thing, are going through those things, or who just wanted to talk about those issues, those taboo issues that no one wants to talk about. And who the fuck calls depression taboo? Why is depression a taboo issue? Why is suicide a taboo issue for us to talk about? Cutting, why is that an issue? Drug use. Why are these things taboo in our society to talk about? And how are we ever expected to grow from these situations if we don't talk about them? Are we only expected to talk about these things in the confinement of a counselor's office, a therapist? Why can't we talk about these things amongst each other? I get really worked up about this because I feel that the fact that I felt these things were taboo were part of the reason why I held back from seeking help. I felt really guilty and really ashamed for my partying ways. I felt really guilty and really ashamed for the way I treated relationships, for the way I allowed myself to be treated in relationships. I was really ashamed and I didn't want to talk about it. And I didn't want to admit that I was having all these issues. I didn't want to admit that I was allowing people to treat me like shit. I didn't want to admit that I didn't love myself. Because all of that would make me look weak, would make me feel unaccepted by society, by the people around me. But the more that I spoke about these things online, or wrote about these things online, the more people reached out. And some of the people who reached out, I was shocked. Working in nightlife and having that type of a presence where you're expected to go, 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 you're expected to be happy all the time, and you're the one that's super fun to party with, and you know all the biggest DJs, you know where the party's at. That was a really tough image to uphold for almost 6 years of my life, especially when I had all this shit going on underneath it. That's why I turned to drugs and alcohol. And what shocked me the most of all the people who reached out to me were the DJs, were the other people who worked in that industry, reaching out to me, talking about these things, finally, because they felt free to talk about them, because I opened that gate. This is why I am authentic about my story. This is why I choose to be transparent, and this is why I will continue to tell my story day in and day out, because I want this to spread through the world like wildfire. I want people to own their stories. Because once you own your story, once you start telling it, once you start acknowledging what happened and acknowledging your position in all of it, your place in your experiences, once I acknowledged that the root of all my issues was my lack of self-love, once I acknowledged that guys weren't treating me like shit in relationships, guys weren't abusing me, I was allowing it. Once I acknowledged that, I mean, that was a huge piece. I allowed it to happen. Once I acknowledged all of that, once I owned all of that, I gained the ability to change my life. Because I realized that I was, in fact, in charge. Maybe I can't control what's going on in the world around me. Maybe I can't control another person's words, actions, or behaviors. But I can always control my own. Do I still get angry? Yes. Do I still get frustrated? Hell yes. Do I still feel depressed at times? Yeah, I do. But I've now equipped myself with the tools I need to get through those emotions. I am now self-aware, so that when these emotions come up, I'm aware of them. And because I'm aware of them, I'm able to initiate a different type of behavior. Owning your story empowers you. If you continue to feel resentful, angry, ashamed, or guilty of your past, your story holds power over you. In a way, it belittles you. It hangs over you like a dark cloud. It keeps you in this feeling of being stuck. You dwell in it. You can't move forward. But the moment you open up, the moment that you decide, I'm going to take responsibility for everything that has happened in my life up to this point, is the moment you realize you can then change everything that happens from this point onwards. You become empowered by your story. All of this work that I've done on myself, my self-love journey, inspired me to become a self-love coach. I am a life coach. I specialize in spiritual coaching and coaching on the topics of self-love. I want to teach people how to love themselves. I feel as though that's something that society never taught us, not because our parents are bad parents. It was just something that was never thought of. It wasn't something that they considered had to be taught. But then here we are, Gen X, Gen Y, the millennials, we're going through our midlife crises in, our 20s and our 30s. Shit happens, relationships fall apart, we lose our jobs, and we feel like we're left with nothing and no one to talk to. We feel empty, we feel lost, we struggle. And it's because we have no connection to that love within us. And we're too fucking scared to talk about our stories, to talk about our emotions, because that will make us look weak. So I'm here to tell you, own your story. Become empowered by it. And start your own journey to self-love. Rediscover who you are. Rediscover what it is you truly want, your purpose. Find out what makes you tick, what brings joy in your life, what brings positivity. Own your story, Share your story. Stop letting your story hold power over you and become empowered by your experiences. I guarantee you, your life will change the moment you decide to do that. The moment you decide to implement those changes into your life, you will begin to change. I always tell people, you'll change when you decide to create change in your life. It sounds simpler than it is to actually put into action. I know this. And sometimes when I say this to people, I do experience a little discomfort because I understand that the other person doesn't get it yet. I only get it now because I'm so far into my journey to self-love. I'm so deep into creating change in my life that I realize what power I actually hold. We are powerful, powerful beings, much more powerful than we give ourselves credit for. So again, own your story. Allow yourself, give yourself permission to move forward. Share your story with others. And if you need help, seek help. Nothing will change until you decide to create change. So create the change that is necessary in your life to create the life you truly want to live. I promise you can do this. You just have to believe it. And I think I will end it at that. If you have questions for me, if you'd like to ask me more about my personal journey, I welcome you to do so. Reach out to me on my Facebook page. I am Ruby on Facebook. I would love to hear from you. And if you need help, I would love to be there for you as a coach. Let's work on this together. Let's work on creating a society that isn't afraid to speak the truth. Let's work on creating a world that doesn't shy away from being authentic. Sending you all love and light. Namaste.